Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roundtable, coming to you live from Beijing. I'm your host, He Yang. Good as always to have you with us. From the top, we bring to you the latest on the extremely heavy rainfall in central China's Henan province. And soy sauce is the not-so-secret ingredient in delicious Chinese cuisine. How has soy sauce grown to dominate the condiment market of Chinese cooking? Are people ponying up for the deluxe options of this once humble sauce? For today's program, I'm joined by Huang Shen and Lai Ming. The death toll from heavy downpours in Henan province rose to 25 on Wednesday, July the 22nd, with 7 still missing. More than 1.2 million people have been affected. So guys, what is the latest on the heavy flooding happening in Henan province?
Sure. China's Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Emergency Management allocated a total of 100 million yuan, or about $15 million for disaster relief. China's State Flood Control and Drought Relief Headquarters lifted the emergency response to level 2 starting at 3 a.m. on Wednesday. Both the provincial government of Henan and Zhengzhou municipal government have raised the emergency response for the disaster to level 1. And some of the major events in the timeline that last 24 hours, over 470,000 people have been affected by heavy rainfall in Xinjiang, and over 470,000 people in 58 villages and towns are affected in Xinjiang, central China's Henan province, as the city is battered by record rainfall in recent days. Local authorities had dispatched 138 rescue teams and 1,521 vehicles to the affected areas. And all the public transport service will be halted, and all the employees of enterprises and institutions except those flood relief-related personnel are asked to work at home, according to an emergency notice issued by the flood prevention authorities on Thursday in Anyang City, central China's Henan province. So the reaction and response to the disaster is being carried out throughout the province, and help is being rushed into the province from across the country.
And also, China's Ministry of Finance on July the 21st embarked 100 million yuan, or about $15.4 million of disaster relief funds for Henan province that has been hit by heavy downpour and floods. As China Daily reported, while being used for emergency rescue and disaster relief, the funds will also help the affected area to restore the agricultural production and water conservancy infrastructure. And also, we have seen people in the region have suffered great inconvenience, economic losses, and even tragedy in recent years, but they have been able to display courage and help others in a time of peril. So we have seen so many video clips circulated online and shot on smartphones in multiple cities in Henan province, which showed people rushing into flooded streets to rescue others, and very often strangers trapped or drowning in flood water, placing their own lives at risk. So especially in one video, and people from a human chain and use a rope to pull a drowning woman to safety, and in another one, dozens of pedestrians link their arms together to cautiously make their way across a flooded road while water laps at their chest. And at the same time, many NGOs, charitable organizations, and volunteer groups from within and outside Henan province have sent their members to affected regions to help with disaster relief operations and provide necessities for flood victims in need. And we have also seen a number of technology companies, they have pledged donations and assistance to the flood relief efforts. And for instance, the e-commerce giant Alibaba announced on July 21st a 100 million yuan donation to Henan province, while the foundation of its founder Jack Ma pledged a 50 million yuan donation. And tech giants like Tencent, Didi, and ByteDance, and food delivery platform Meituan, they all have give each promised donations of 100 million yuan. And Foxconn in Industrial Internet, which has an iPhone factory in Zhengzhou City of Henan Province, also donated 100 million yuan. And in addition, Alibaba's mapping service Auto Navy has introduced an emergency reporting system where users can report flooded regions in real time. And also, if you are a user of Douyin, the short video app, and on the platform, it has created a special channel called Henan Heavy Rain SOS, where people stranded by the storm can upload a video on their whereabouts and ask for help through the platform.
Wait, that's very, very impressive. Aside from support in the form of money and donation, I mean, these tech companies also have a huge part to play in terms of providing technical support to those in need. I mean, earlier today, as I woke up in bed, I checked the stories on social media, and one of the stories that caught my attention was a file, sort of an Excel file that was circulating online, where people could take part and edit and input their demand for support, for help in that document. And it was an evolving document. More and more people had access to that document, and they sent this out to more people. And it would have not been possible without the technical support. And many of those people left messages with regard to where their whereabouts, what kind of what kind of help they need, and then some people up there update their current status as to whether they have been helped, whether they have been rescued, and some of these items will be crossed out once they have received the right amount of help. And it was just a very emotional and very uplifting story to be looking at. And so I would stress that there's a huge part that technology firms can play aside from just donating money. And there's a point in developing and keep developing our technological capabilities. Another point that's worth mentioning is the ubiquitous term 千年一遇 in Chinese. And everywhere you look for Chinese reports over this major event, you see the term once in a millennium or once in 1,000 years. This term can be a bit confusing. For one thing, we Chinese people are used to using terms like 百年一遇, once in 1,000 years, once in 100 years, or 千年一遇, once in 1,000 years, to describe the rarity of certain events. For instance, a disaster like this. But on the other hand, it's become a jargon or a technical term that people involved in disaster prevention and relief would use to describe the magnitude, if not the probability of an event. So this is why everywhere we go, we see reports saying how this can be a once in a millennium event. But I have to say, I did some research, and personally, I have been confused by this term, even as I was a child and looking at certain disaster relief efforts back in the 1990s. And after this research, I realized that we media professionals haven't done a good job at explaining the jargon, the technical term that people use in the field. Once in 1,000 years, or once in a millennium, or once in 100 years can be a term, like I said, to describe the rarity of an event that people commonly use. But in technical terms, it also means the probability of an event ever happening again. So once in a millennium doesn't mean that now this year we have this major flooding taking place. It doesn't mean that in the next 999 years we wouldn't see anything like that. It's a term to describe the probability of it. It means in any given year you have 1 in 1,000 chance of seeing a flood like this. I'm sure that people can get a little confused about this, especially our friends in overseas looking at a direct translation or literal translation of this term. But again, I'd like to stress that this is just a literal translation, and this is a term used to describe the probability or the rarity of an event. And I suggest we focus our attention on helping people, on the kind of endeavors, on the kind of efforts that people are making to help each other, instead of how we have misused the term.
For me, someone who's, I would like to think, fluent in Chinese and English, I would say in Chinese, this term is a figure of speech. It's called a literary technique. And anybody who knows English would be able to understand that, I think, if you have received at least high school education. So I think in this sense, there might be something lost in translation or a little bit of a cultural difference in understanding in that sense. And I think also when we read these reports, it's important to get the context right. And that is something that is increasingly difficult to do, especially if you consider that there could be the language barrier and cultural difference there. And it's just good to get these things straight. And for all of you living in Henan province, all of you who are affected by the flooding directly or indirectly, hang in there, stay strong. We're all here standing right behind you. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the secret or not so secret ingredient in Chinese cooking that is called soy sauce.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable, where East meets West and understanding is the goal.
It's the hour of Roundtable with myself, He Yang, and I've got Lai Ming and Huang Shan in the studio with me. Soy sauce, or jiangyou, is truly essential to Chinese cooking. Basically, we can't live without it. Some of our recipes call for light soy sauce, while others call for just soy sauce, and still others call for dark soy sauce. On the shelves of the supermarket, you may have also seen bottles labeled seasoned, black, gluten-free, sweet, and thin, and now there are deluxe and premium offers of soy sauce. The options are truly dazzling and can be certainly confusing. So let's talk about this. What is soy sauce and how has it grown to dominate the condiment market of Chinese cooking?
Soy sauce is the black liquid that you often see in Chinese restaurants. It's always usually salty, some of them more salty than the others. And I think when people have dumplings, typically they would add soy sauce and also vinegar. And it is made by combining soybeans, which we talked about yesterday, with a fungal mixture and then mixing with salt brine before fermenting for months or years. So there's a typical flavor to soy sauce that you cannot do without, especially when you're cooking Chinese meals or many of the Asian cuisines. In fact, I think when you're doing braised pork cubes, and this is something that you have to add in the wok before you even put the pork cubes in to give the pork cubes a distinctive look. How do I describe this? The almost golden look. That makes the pork cube so attractive. And depending on where you live, I mean, some regions in this country use more of soy sauce than the rest, but it's safe to say that it is a very important ingredient in Chinese cuisine. In fact, we have a saying, firewood, rice, oil, salt, sauce, vinegar, and tea are the 7 necessities if you want to have a household and keep it running healthily. So soy sauce is one of the crucial items in the kitchen, if not in the household.
Yeah, soy sauce is definitely a basic condiment in many Chinese and Asian recipes. If we travel in time, it was invented by the Chinese approximately 3,000 years ago. And I would say the color is brown, right? And also it's a salty liquid condiment. And it's like made it by fermenting soybeans or breaking them down with acid. So that's the reason why it's primary flavors are salt and umami, and we explained this kind of taste in some other shows earlier this month. And in general, we have 3 types of soy sauce, and their uses are very versatile. So the most common type is the light soy sauce. In Chinese, we call it 生抽. So when you see a Chinese recipe or an Asian recipe, when it mentioned soy sauce, there's a very big chance it's like they are referring to light soy sauce. So light soy sauce, they taste salty, of course, and it's thin and light reddish brown in color and opaque. So the light soy sauce is not same thing as reduced salt soy sauce or other products which may also carry labels such as light. And Chinese people usually use the light soy sauce for dips, probably. I mean, you mentioned earlier when we have like the dumplings, probably you put a dip and on the side, and to complement the taste of dumplings or other steamed dishes. So you can also use light soy sauce to marinate ingredients, because the marination is a very important cooking procedure in terms of the Chinese cooking style. And before you cook any meat dishes, and many people like to use the soy sauce to marinate like chicken, pork, or beef, or or even fish sometimes. And sometimes we can also use light soy sauce for the dressings and stir-fried food. The second type of soy sauce is dark soy sauce, and definitely you can tell by the name, the color is stronger and darker, and in terms of texture is thicker. So whenever you are making probably the braised pork or braised chicken legs, you like to add a little bit dark soy sauce in the cooking, because it can intensify the color of the dish, and also make sure when you are taking the dish out and during the plating process, and it looks definitely better.
Yeah, I know some people like the tofu pretty clean and white, but when I'm cooking them, I make sure that I add some dark soy sauce to give it a darker tone. And I mean, that's the way I've always had tofu ever since I was a child. So depending on your preference, your use of soy sauce can be quite liberal or quite conservative.
Yeah, well, with tofu, bean curds, we have hundreds, if not more, different types of tofu here in China, and also, different tofu-centered dishes. And it depends if you want to have it as maybe like an appetizer, so cold, then I would think usually the tofu comes in the more of a pristine white color. But if it's like the hot dish, like one of the main dishes that you have, then I think having it with the dark soy sauce drizzled on it, so it adds a little bit of color, and it's just more appetizing. It's funny how your brain tells you under certain circumstances what a dish looks like, such and such, and then it triggers the appetite or not. And I guess with Chinese cuisine, which is, an art in itself and with such a rich history, then we're almost conditioned into feeling that salivating feel inside your mouth, looking at certain dishes and certain kind of shades of soy sauce that's been involved in it.
I think the Beijing locals, they use a lot of soy sauce in whatever they cook.
Actually, I think there's a lot of the 甜面酱, so the thick, sweet sauce.
Soybean paste?
Kinda. And I think definitely they put soy sauce in it, but it's a thicker sauce, and I don't think it's soy sauce itself can do the job in that sense. But certainly in Chinese cuisine, it's pretty much every main dish you can think of would have soy sauce in it.
Unless it's veggies.
But even with veggies, sometimes...
Or dim sums. Probably you don't...
Right, dim sum probably
but
not.
You probably just use the soy sauce for the dipping.
Right.
And also, vinegar to me is really the secret weapon because I think, and also with vinegar, there are a lot of different types of vinegar too, but my favorite is the type from Shanxi province, which is really sour, and there's it just ages really well, and it's, in my opinion, the best thing to have with cold cucumber in summertime. And these days, you might be wondering, why are we talking about soy sauce all of a sudden, right? Well, one thing is it is absolutely essential to Chinese cuisine, and also with this humble little bottle, actually it is a huge market considering how prevalent it is used in Chinese cuisine, and this is an industry that amounts to more than billions of yuan every year.
Yeah, it is a very essential ingredient in Chinese cooking, which is why it's become quite popular, and it's always guaranteed to go with the market. I mean, I in our research, I realized a major company in soy sauce retail manufacturing was listed in the middle of 2010s, and in the 6 years that they've been listed, the market value of that company has since increased to more than 10 times its listing value. So that sort of goes to show how essential it is, in fact, in people's everyday life. But that's not to say our demand for soy sauce has remained unchanged, even though soy sauce has pretty much been a staple in our cooking, but our demand for soy sauce has somewhat upgraded. There's been talk of this high-end and deluxe soy sauce costing much more than your average soy sauce in buckets would usually cost, and we're quickly looking at a market value that's about to exceed 400 billion yuan, or $400 billion US dollars.
It's 400 billion Chinese yuan.
Yeah.
Wow. Still quite impressive.
A lot, definitely. And yes, soy sauce takes a big part of that market.
Yeah, I would say a bottle of soy sauce is a must-have item in every Chinese household. And that's the reason why, according to some predictions, and by 2025, the market share of high-end soy sauce could reach possibly around 36 billion yuan. And if you just go into a supermarket and you check the section of condiments, you can tell they have further segmented the feature set of soy sauce. So you can easily find the seasoned soy sauce for seafood on the shelf, and also the purely seafood soy sauce, and a soy sauce. Yeah, barbecue soy sauce, and a soy sauce for only a braised pork, and also the soy sauce for the cold dishes. So you can tell the function of soy sauce have been detailed to many categories, and this also give a boost for the research and development of more soy sauce related products. And we have seen earlier, we talked about MSG has gradually disappeared from Chinese people's dining tables, but soy sauce is still there, and the people are still trying to make it healthier. For example, they will be tempted by the selling points like low salt or the non-GMO soybean made soy sauce, and probably in many products the manufacturers also add the selling points as this bottle of soy sauce contains enzymes or protein or dietary fibers, all these rich and nutritious facts, which can give you an idea that by using this additive, it won't cause any harm to your health.
It's quite interesting, even as Chinese young people cook less and less in their daily lives, the demand for soy sauce has increased, and in fact, these retailers manufacturers are looking to upgrade their service, and some of these ideas, for instance, additive free. I mean, that sort of provides a guarantee for people who are health conscious. I personally know a bunch of people who don't, who opt for no soy sauce in their dishes, but perhaps with this new selling point of being additive free or more or cleaner environment in making the soy sauce, it could be a way to convince more people to turn to soy sauce.
Well, and certainly a way to charge you more, or at least so-called come up with new products and, again, give you a reason to pay differently for this little bottle of condiment that we simply just cannot live without here in China. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, we have more discussion on other topics, and stick around, everybody, for more Roundtable discussion.
Informed opinion and heated debate. Find out what's got China talking and join us for your roundtable discussion.
You're listening to Roundtable with myself, He Yang, joined by Lai Ming and Huang Shen. Coming up, moving house is the perfect opportunity to get rid of clutter. How do people throw away? Well, what do people throw away before moving to a new address? And how does someone develop a sense of direction when you simply cannot figure out what's north, east, south? What do I have left? West. Yes, without the help of a phone or a compass. We'll get into it. Our podcast listeners can find us at Roundtable China on Apple Podcast. If you like the show, please tell a friend about us or give us a 5-star review. It certainly helps. Another way to get in contact and also to contribute to the show is to send a voice question to aezfmmeldingcloudcomrssprogram12695116. For once every week, we air your audio first and then give you a reply on the live show. And now on Roundtable, as we continue today's discussion. Moving house can be exhausting and expensive if you have a ton of stuff. And a lot of us do. What are the things that folks have tossed away when heading to a new address? So we have a survey in front of us that is conducted by Research Institute DT Caijing, and it looked at what 1,000 young respondents have to say regarding moving house and throwing away stuff. So what are the findings?
Well, most young people, and by most I mean 30%, have chosen to keep their washing machines, and an equal amount of people have chosen to keep their refrigerators and electric toothbrushes. That makes a lot of sense. And a lot of them have chosen to get rid of the coffee machines, TVs, kitchen waste shredder, and dishwashers. And the reasons they provided for these decisions are, for instance, they make the decisions based on the frequency of use, the necessity of life, and of course, I think, everybody has to take a shower every day, and they need to get changed, and what to do with the stuff they taken off. They have to wash them. So wherever you go, it's best that you have a washing machine with you. Refrigerators, same. We just talk about cooking, and you can't cook unless you have a refrigerator, because you'll probably have leftovers, you probably have raw ingredients that you haven't cooked. So these are very essential appliances in your household. Electric toothbrushes, as I understand, can be quite expensive compared to regular toothbrushes, and therefore it makes economic sense for people to hang on to them a bit longer. As for coffee machine, that says a lot about the young people's lifestyle those days. On the one hand, I think it's stylish, it's fashionable to have a coffee machine at home. Imagine turning on your favorite TV or streaming platform and order your coffee machine to get a fresh fix for you, and you sit there. It does feel like you have this modern way of living compared to sitting there just eating some watermelon seeds. And TVs, I know people probably don't watch TV in the traditional sense, but we could always use a big screen when we want to stream stuff from your mobile devices, and when you watch sports, of course. Kitchen waste shredder, this is something relatively unfathomable in my perspective. And I haven't installed a kitchen waste shredder. I suspect it's going to be a lot of trouble to have them installed and have them uninstalled and reinstalled in a different location. So I guess that's the reason why people just choose to leave them behind.
Yeah, the reasons I can think of why do young people want to discard kitchen waste shredder and also dishwasher is because they have to be installed underneath your sink.
Right.
And it's not that portable, and it's very hard to remove them with you, and probably you have to call a special personnel to come to your house and disassemble the things and bring then in this way you can bring these two things with you. And for the washing machines and the fridge and electric toothbrushes, these things are the daily necessities, and also you have a high frequency of using such appliances. And to be honest, these products, the life expectancy of them are pretty long. You don't really need to upgrade them every now and then. So, and when you purchase such appliances, they were quite expensive to begin with. And so when you move to a new house, you probably will be more strategic, and definitely you will bring these things with you. I don't understand why they want to discard a coffee machine. That's my favorite electrical appliance in my house.
Oh, yeah?
And you can enjoy the home brewed coffee and with that aroma, and it lasts forever, I think, for a coffee machine, unless there are too many coffee drains and stuck inside a machine. You don't know how to clean it. Probably that's the time you have to change your coffee machine. And for TV, the reason I can think of is that now people are just going for, if you are still watching TV, then probably you want a bigger screen. And the TV now is going a higher definition for that direction. So probably if you want to upgrade your TV, you want a TV with bigger screen and a higher definition, and probably with some smart functions, which means you can connect your TV to the internet and also enjoy the internet TV options. That's the time you want to change your TV set.
And let's don't forget, these are young people we're talking about. And if we are looking at the urban setting, and young people most likely are renting an apartment and they're living in a rented apartment. So wherever they're going, they'll probably still be renting. And I've rented before. I personally don't like the options provided in those apartments, especially the washing machines. You don't know what people have washed in those leftover washing machines, maybe shoes, maybe socks. So I would certainly want to have my own washing machines. Same goes for TV.
And also fridge.
The landlords usually would arrange a very outdated and very small screen for you. I personally had to buy a new TV just because I wanted to play Xbox, because the older machine, the older TV simply doesn't support it. Coffee machine, I don't know. The reason why people would choose to leave them behind is perhaps, is it a lot of work? Is it?
Or they want to update their coffee machine.
Well, another option is they bought this on an impulse, but in fact they haven't developed the habit of drinking a coffee every day, so the frequency of use is pretty low.
Well, certainly drinking coffee isn't something natural to Chinese people. Usually it's, an acquired taste for some people, usually in the urban setting, I would think, that sort of you gradually get into. And also just making your own coffee, that's a bit much for a lot of people, I would think, and it's so easy just to get it outside unless you have that, necessary need every morning, right? So this is something about possibly people's penchant in beverages and what's truly necessary, that really says
lifestyle
about you and what you like. And it's kind of interesting in a way to see that a lot of these smaller home appliances, they're the first to be discarded when people move house. And these days, when you look at the frequency of urban drifters who move, it's pretty high. Like a lot of people kind of move every year or so for various reasons. Sometimes it's basically the rent keeps going up and affordability becomes an issue. And sometimes, of course, if you've switched jobs or whatnot, and actually I think this is a major advantage of renting, that is, you're free to like experience and experiment in different apartments, and you're not tied down to one property. So when people move, it often has something to do with changing jobs or other major changes in one's life, and it makes sense to do that. And therefore, people don't really seem to be all that attached maybe to these possessions that you have. And considering that now people, younger people maybe, they tend to shop for these small home appliances and sometimes bigger ones, and then they're just affordable in my opinion. And for example, like the TV screen or the TV, now the price of a television has really depreciated to such an astounding level.
Right.
Yeah, like 20 years ago, like it could cost like 5 digits in Chinese yuan to buy a TV set. But now it's common to be half that price. So 5,000 yuan could get a really good, super big, flat TV and in high definition, and that connects to the internet and your phone and does amazing things. In the living room, I suppose. I haven't really developed and understood all of those functions just yet. But yeah, it's really interesting to see that these electronic goods, they come and go, and people seem to be sort of okay with that. But does this also maybe possibly point out to that we are seeing a new trend of 断舍离 or dansheri, and I think that's Japanese, but I probably got the pronunciation wrong. Just, pardon me in that sense. So this idea of minimalist living, decluttering, your Marie Kondo kind of idea of organizing your life in the apartment.
I think if you have to move every once in a while, you are sort of trained to pick up this 断舍离 kind of lifestyle. I've moved multiple times, and every time I move, I get rid of stuff, and the movers have a field day. And so when you're settled in an apartment and you don't move, you sort of take things for granted. I mean, that coffee machine you haven't used in 5 years is probably going to remain there if you don't have to move, or if you don't run out of space. But if you have to move, you have to make sure that everything, you have to make the decision. You have to look at everything, and you have to decide whether you want it or not. So if you have to move every now and then and on a yearly basis, most likely you'll develop this Marie Kondo or this 断舍离 kind of lifestyle. I mean, that's what I think.
Yeah, and now for many young people, and they're renting a house, is probably the reason why they have this minimalist living. Because when you are renting a house, you have the intention that you don't want to buy too many stuff and to decorate and to fill in your rented house. And when you have your own house, probably you have the freedom and to buy everything, because you know that you don't need to move to another house that frequently. And to start with, you probably didn't buy that much of products and to sit in your room. And later, when you move to a new house, you will make a list of what you want to bring with you and what you want to just leave behind. Because sometimes, especially for people who are working in first-tier cities, the renting could be quite expensive, and usually you are not enjoying a very huge space, and you want to make every space it counts and want to make it meaningful and want to just decorate your house with the most like efficient functions. So in this way, you will only bring the valuable things with you. And also when you are moving to a new house, probably you want to upgrade your lifestyle a little bit more. Then you want to get rid of the outdated appliances and decorate your new house with the latest versions or editions of the appliances. And taking TV as an example again, so many young people probably they see no needs of having a TV in their house. Now the projector is very popular.
Right.
All you need is a blank wall and a projector. You can save space while you can enjoy the viewing experience like in a cinema. So, and also a projector is way cheaper than a TV set. So why not? It's a more cost effective option. So probably that's the reason why like young people, they want a minimalist living, and you have less responsibilities of taking all your belongings with you. Just get the most valuable and meaningful ones with you.
Right. What you just said there pretty much also point to another phenomenon that happens, I think, all around the world, that is cord cutting for any, well, maybe developed society and also some developing countries too. Any country basically that has a high penetration rate of the internet. So for the younger generation, nobody okay, that might be a little bit of an overstatement. Very little number of people actually sit in front of a TV and wait until a program comes up, because usually you would just find whatever you want to watch, maybe download it or just stream it live from one of your digital devices. Even I, a cavewoman, has managed to learn how to project my
mobile phone?
Yeah, like the streaming app to the TV screen through the internet. And
Bravo.
Thanks. And actually, you guys had something to do with it. So I suppose, yeah, like now for young people, they do not need cable. And that is nail on in the coffin for one of those industries by the sound of it. But still, you've got older folks to rely on, and they still, enjoy that habit of sitting on the couch and watching TV at a certain time of the day. And Lyman, you mentioned something about sports, right? I think it's still a much better experience to watch sports on the TV screen.
Huge TV, yeah.
Yeah. Or using the projector, like what Huang Shan just mentioned. So definitely these are the changing habits of viewing for the younger generation. And I was just looking at the list of things that people tend to throw away as they move, and aside from the ones that you've already covered, there's the fan, the electronic fan.
Yeah.
So maybe they've upgraded to the AC, but it depends on where you live as well, because in certain parts of the country, actually having the fan would be sufficient. Like in Lhasa, I don't think having the AC the air conditioning is that important, because it doesn't get that hot.
A lot of the hotels we contacted, they don't have AC, so because of the temperate, what is it? Temporal or very mild temperature or weather that you have there. So they have heating, but they don't have AC. So depending on where you live, some people might opt to bring only their electric fans instead of their ACs around. And 烤箱 oven.
Yeah, and the oven, and also what's the other? The
blender.
Oh yeah, the blender, and then
humidifier,
the robo vacuum cleaner, and the machine that makes soybean milk, and
yeah, I hate those.
Yeah,
the blender and the soybean juice maker, I hate those, because if you don't wash them in time, especially in summertime, and you will come back home and you see mold growing in there.
Ew. Okay, that sounds like first-hand experience. And ew, Liming, ew. So basically, when we're seeing this, then these are all small home appliances, and it's almost like what you think that, okay, I would incorporate this to my lifestyle, and that would be really nice for some time until you probably just put it aside after using it a few times, that kind of thing. And okay, so now we've gone through the list of the stuff people keep, and also more interestingly, in my opinion, the stuff that people throw away. But where are they throwing all this stuff away to? And if you're someone who's looking to buy this stuff, wouldn't it be just great if you can get it secondhand at a really cheap price?
Yeah, there are many ways to get rid of those stuff, but only certain stuff like refrigerators and washing machines and computers and ACs, you can pretty much find any means of recycling or any platform. It could be Alipay, it could be WeChat, it could be the used item platform, Idlefish, or any other platform supported by any other tech company. And people are willing to come by and pick them up. But if you have a dishwasher and you want to get rid of them, my experience told me that it's going to be hard work.
Yeah, and you can tell like some items are really easy to dispose, and such as the soy milk maker or the blender. You can just throw them away because these are too personal and you have used it. No one wants to use a secondhand blender or just soy milk maker.
Why?
For hygiene standard,
it's
right?
It's not like your hand is in there. It's
but
just
you put all the ingredients in there.
Yeah, and it's not like I'm growing them
and
off my body.
You don't know who's the previous user. Probably this person has a really bad hygiene standard, and this person never washed such a blender or a soy milk maker,
well,
and let the mold grow inside the item. Anyway,
fair enough.
And also they're affordable. So they are very easy. They're very cheap to be replaced. No one wants to have a second-hand one. But for the oven and probably the washing machine, well, I would say it's good for the next renter. They can just enjoy all this convenience brought by the previous renter. Because you cannot take everything installed already in your previous kitchen with you. Probably you'll spend more on hiring the special person to take all the things with you and then just install a new one. Or probably while you were using such items, you figure out, wow, they're not that convenient. Yeah.
And it always helps to have a good connection with the community you live in. At the end of the day, my dishwasher was collected by the woman who cleaned the public area of our residential building, and she seemed to like it.
So you gave it away for free?
Yeah.
Yeah, what a nice thing to do. And actually for Liming, he achieved the purpose of decluttering, and one man's poison / idle goods is treasure to another person. So why not? And saves money for the other person. And also, just think about all the quote-unquote garbage that goes out when they're perfectly functionable, and it's so much better for the environment if these idle resources can go to good use. You're listening to Roundtable. Coming up next, how do one develop a sense of direction? That's figuring out what east, west, north, south is in your mind. Stay with us to find out more on that.
Looking for passion? How about fiery debate? Want to hear about current events in China from different perspectives? Then tune in to Roundtable, where East meets West and understanding is the goal.
It's the hour of Roundtable with myself, He Yang, and I have Liming and Huang Shan in the studio. Finding the right direction in life is an existential problem that all of us face at some time, and that's too philosophical question we will not tackle today. Let's take a step back, determining directions to something that sounds a little bit easier, possibly. North, south, west, and east. And without a compass or GPS on your phone is not an ability everybody naturally enjoys. For those with no sense of direction, it's a great difficulty to locate the direction. And it's much easier just to say to these folks, oh, go left or go right. And that I think most people can figure out. Are our brains wired differently when it comes to the sense of direction? What do you guys say?
I think our brains are wired differently. I mean, I'm not a guy who has a very good sense of bearing. I have to make a deliberate attempt to remember where I've been and where's the direction of the building I set off with to really help me know in which direction I'm going.
And okay, what about you, Huangshan?
I have a really bad sense of direction, and that's why I was wowed by Beijing locals when I first came to Beijing. And because if you want to ask for a direction on the road, and I think many Beijing locals, they take it as a pride and about their good sense of direction. So when you ask them, how can I get there? Instead of telling you, oh, you should turn left, turn right, they will give you the answer like you should go left or you should go south or to the north. I really couldn't understand what does it mean, because it's also related to the urban planning of a city.
Right,
we know
indeed.
in Beijing, we take the Chang'an Street as the central, and you can use it as an indicator and to tell where is the north, south, and east and west.
And there are ring roads to assist you in this.
Yeah, and also I think for many people who have a really good sense of direction, they can visualize the map in their head. So their head is like an actual map, and they can tell the direction with their analysis, insight, and processed in the brain.
Yeah, certain things can come intuitively to certain people. For instance, when you are in the wild, the position of the sun and the time of the day, and also the growth of the vegetations around you, and also in rural areas, when you walk into the villages, most likely the buildings will be erected facing south. So you have decent clues to tell you which direction you're going. But what's most confusing for me, at least, is in metropolitan cities, major cities. That's because they all look the same, and when you are indoors particularly, you lose your sense of bearing very, very easily. I just envy those people who seem to have a radar or a compass in their brains, and they notice things intuitively, and they make the decision, and they can tell where they are. It's a gift to have.
I kind of dislike the idea of lumping people together and assume that, oh, just because you're from a certain place and therefore you should be able, for example, in this case, identify the bearing of direction naturally. And I happen to have been grow up here in Beijing, and I have no sense of direction at all. And actually, I would make the argument that this is sure a great ability to have if you live in the wild, but we don't. And with the help of the smartphone these days, and also I have eyes, I can see in which direction the sun rises. At least that gives me some. Well, at night, then that could be a little bit of an issue. But anyhow, my point here is that, do you guys think that possibly this is just one of those abilities that could just be a little bit obsolete?
Now, in times of dire stresses, I mean, this technique can come in very, very handy. For instance, maybe there's an earthquake and you want to find the nearest exit, and having a good sense of bearing is a great help.
How would I know which exit is located? North, south, east, or west, if I don't even know that? But that's it for today. We'll see you next time.